Hello and welcome to Ensemble Designs. We're live from our studio in Nevada City, California, and this webcast is exclusive for NewTek employees and resellers. We are so happy to be partnering with you, and I just want to tell you about an experience I had during IBC and working with your staff, getting ready for the show and having our routers be in your booth and being an integral part of your booth. And your employees were so conscientious and hardworking and smart, and really in alignment with the core values of Ensemble Designs. And so we know that this is going to be a great partnership and really profitable for all of us. So you may be asking yourselves, there are a lot of routers on the market, and why would I want to choose Ensemble Designs? And there are a lot of reasons we think that you would want to consider us. Of course, we're known in the industry for making incredible products that last a long time, and we have a lot of broadcast experience behind us, including a lot of our employees were employees of Grass Valley Group, and so they bring all of those years of experience and knowledge with them for broadcast. But today we're going to focus on the top three. We just want to bring out those top three for you so you really know what sets us apart. And I'm going to introduce to you right now Ron Chubb. He is our East Coast sales manager, and Ron is going to bring up the number one most important feature of the NXT.
Hi, NewTek partners. I think one of the key advanced features of the NXT 410 is the fact that it can accept a wide variety of input and output signal formats, including HDMI, SDI, and even fiber optic connectivity is available as an option.
Right, exactly, which makes it an incredibly flexible product because you're able to switch back and forth between all of those different formats.
It's incredibly flexible.
Right, and so to show us those features is John Pichettino, our technology evangelist.
Hi, Monday.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. How are you? First of all, let me start off by saying that this is it. This is the whole thing.
Indeed.
There is no rack of equipment somewhere behind me here. Everything is here. The front panel for operational control and the rear for all of the connectivity. So this is the whole kit and caboodle right here in my hand at this particular time. So I would like to start off pointing out the different ports that are on the back of this unit. This unit is both HDMI and SDI capable, as well as fiber optic. So here we have 4 HDMI inputs and an HDMI output. At the bottom we have 2 dedicated SDI inputs, 2 dedicated SDI outputs, and 1 port that could be either an input or an output, just depending on your installation or maybe even your particular production. This can be changed at any time from an input to an output. Reference BNC here to bring in reference, which is fully timeable. And down here in the lower right-hand corner is where the power supply connects, and it's a twist-on power supply so it can't come off in the middle of your production. Now in the upper right-hand corner is this little square SFP cage, sometimes it's called, or a socket. And SFP stands for small form pluggable. It looks something like this. And so what we do is insert this into the socket, and now what we have is fiber optic connectivity as well. And there are 2 different fiber optic ports. So now we have HDMI and we have SDI, and you can route any signal to any port. So therefore, or any output. So I could take an HDMI in, for example, and take it as an SDI out. I can take SDI in and take it as an HDMI output. And I can also be using the fiber optic connectivity and be sending it to HDMI and SDI as well.
So John, you bring up a great point because that means that all the converters are built into the router. You're able to convert essentially HDMI and fiber signals to SDI and vice versa.
And be able to use them simultaneously.
Right.
So if you think about the application with that, we can be taking an HDMI output to a flat screen display or a projector,
right.
And also we could take an SDI output that would then be going into our switcher for our archival purposes and for switching on those bases, and we could be routing each independently in the process.
Right, so I'm imagining at a live event that could be incredibly helpful that you're able to get all of these different signals into one device, that you're not trying to use a bunch of different converters and different routers trying to deal with all these signals.
Just the little box, that's
right.
it. It's all that technology built into here.
Wonderful.
Now, for those that don't need the HDMI or perhaps are only working in the SDI domain, we do have an SDI version of this. And so what we have here is the 2 dedicated SDI inputs that we were talking about and the 2 dedicated SDI outputs. And then all the rest of these BNC connectors that are here can be either inputs or outputs, software selectable at any time depending on your production or your installation that goes in there. And one thing I failed to talk about here as well is that we have an IP or an internet connection, and all of this can be controlled and configured via computer from anywhere. And so you just simply have a network connection that's brought into it as well. And the SDI version also has 2 of the SFP cages, and so now we have in each of these are 2 ports. So this unit can go from a 13 by 2, 13 inputs by 2 outputs, or a 2 by 13, 2 inputs and 13 outputs, and anywhere in between. And so you can select it anywhere.
And I know you already brought it up that that's the whole thing, but it's amazing that you can get that many ins and outs in such a small package.
About the size of a club sandwich.
Exactly.
That's pretty good. Now, if that's still not enough ports, we do have our Avenue router, which gives you 28 inputs as well.
Right,
so,
for larger
and
jobs.
And all 3 of these will integrate very well with the TriCaster.
Wonderful, great. So now I'm going to introduce to you Robert Nunez, our West Coast sales manager. And Robert, what do you believe the number 2 most important feature of the NXT is?
Well, I'd like to start off by saying that the last couple of shows I exhibited at, we had our brochure showing the NXT router with the TriCaster. And there's a lot of excitement from customers and dealers realizing they can expand on the input capability now.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So
I've had the same experience.
Yeah, so the number 2 exciting feature of the NXT router is the fact that it can do a clean and quiet switching, and which is assignable to any input or output.
Ah, so you can accept asynchronous sources into the device. It doesn't matter.
Exactly, even a GoPro camera.
Good point. All right, well, to talk about that is John.
Hi.
Hi again.
All right, so this is the front panel of the unit itself. And what we have inside of this, along with all the technology to do all the conversions between HDMI and SDI and also to fiber, what we also have are clean switches, which is an array of frame syncs that are built in here that allow us to take totally asynchronous sources. In other words, just simply plug them in and play, and then give us a clean, quiet output in the process. So let's give you an example. Here you can see the red buttons are the sources, the green buttons are the destinations. So I select a source, I'm going to this destination, and if I hit take, it now very cleanly takes between HDMI sources, between SDI sources, back to an HDMI source. It also has 2 built-in test pattern generators as well, so that we're not burning inputs in order to bring in bars and tone and black.
And that's really important.
And so you can see how this is just cleanly switching between all of these. And we have 2 sets of these clean switches, so we can assign one to the HDMI output, one to the SDI output, and then we just simply plug in our sources and off we go. There's absolutely no timing requirements that are necessary.
And that could be incredibly helpful at a live event, that you don't have to try and time up all of your sources.
Especially if you don't have a lot of time in setup, and more in these live events, they're giving you less and less time to be able to set up and go. And so therefore, to be able to just simply plug and play is extremely helpful.
Exactly. And you brought up a really good point about the fact that the screen goes cleanly and quietly to your video source and you don't hear any pops or clicks. And in our industry, we've come to believe that a clean or a quiet switch, especially in relation to HDMI, is a screen going black maybe for a few seconds, or maybe it's the last good frozen picture of video. And so we, as you demonstrated clearly, we do not do that. But we'd like to show you this short video, and this is something you might want to consider when you're looking at different routers for your customer and their needs.
Hi, this is Chris Merrick with Ensemble Designs, and today I'm going to talk about clean switches and how we compare and contrast to competitors. What we're going to look at is different video sources being switched between one and another. Some of our competitors, they will freeze the picture when they switch between one source and another. Let's take a look at that again. Frozen, cuts to the new source. Granted, there's no glitch, but that's not really what we want to have happen on air. Now let's take a look at another artifact our competitors have. The video switches to black between sources. Let's look at that one more time. Cutting from 2 back to 1, there's black in the frame. That's not good. Let's look at how Ensemble Designs does it. We cut cleanly between one source and another with our clean switch technology. So when you're out there shopping for a clean switch, whether or not it's HDMI or SDI, make sure that you evaluate whether or not the picture freezes, goes to black, or it's perfect, just like Ensemble Designs. Thanks for watching.
Those were really great points to consider, Chris. So here to talk about the number 3 most important feature of the NXT is Jay Warner, one of our international sales managers. Hi, Jay.
Hey, thank you guys for joining us today. And so yes, we have a lot of different control surfaces with the NXT products. First, obviously the front panel. You can do everything from there. You also have a traditional rack mount XY panel that you can use, and then you have a PC, a Mac. You can use it from your iPhone or any smartphone for that matter, and any tablet. Anything that you can browse to the web, you can control the NXT from.
Right, and I know I can think of so many different applications. Our customers have been really excited when they've seen that feature when we've been out demonstrating it. And I know people are using that. And I know that John Pichettino, you actually have a lot of experience with that in the field because you do a lot of live events, and you have done.
I've done quite a few, yes, as a matter of fact. And having a computer interface or a tablet interface is huge.
Right.
Because now you're no longer tethered. And so you can have full control of the unit from basically anywhere. And that can make a really big difference, particularly if we're talking perhaps you want to get the director out of the control room and more into the studio. He can actually be accessing and switching from anywhere.
Exactly.
Be able to see it. Let's take a look at this user interface if we
Great.
could. Now, the NXT has a built-in web server built into it. And so what you're looking at now is the output of that web server, and it can be set up on any web browser. In this case, I'm using Chrome, but I could be using Safari, I could be using Firefox, whatever your favorite web browser is. And on the top here, you'll notice that these pictures are changing. These are my sources that are here at the top, and at the bottom are my destinations. So all I need to do is select a destination, select a source, and hit the take button, and now I am controlling this completely from my computer. And I could be anywhere. I could be at home in my living room and being able to access, to be able to set up, and to also be able to switch. In the corner here, this is where the setup or the settings controls are, and this is where we can set what our ports are, what our test signal generators are, where our clean switches are assigned. All of this is sort of the setup portion of that. And so we're all accessing this via the web browser interface. Now, Jay had mentioned the front panel, and we have the front panel in on the NXT, and we have the same functionality here as well. So over here are your source control buttons, and by the way, all these buttons are mapped. So if you don't like having destinations at the bottom, we can change them and put them at the top, and the buttons will change colors accordingly as you remap them. Or maybe you want destinations on the side and sources on the front. And so as such, these are where my source selection is. In the middle, we have the LCD display, which gives us full motion video of each source before we take it, so we can see, yes, indeed, that's the source I want to take to air. So that's a huge confidence builder. And then over here are all my setup controls. And so everything that you saw on the web browser control, we also have in control from the front panel right here on the NXT as well. And so we have all that functionality. Now, Jay also mentioned that we have an XY router control panel. And here's an example of that here. And it too has its LCD display so that we can see the sources before we actually route them. And then we also have the destinations, which are in green, and then the take button that's here. Fully rack mountable. It's just simply got a internet connection on the back of it. And so therefore we're able to have access or be able to just hook it up by just simply plugging in an IP cable right to the internet cable to the back of it. Now, joining us right now are Tammy Tremaine and Annette Gear from our sales department. And while I've been sitting here talking, they took their mobile devices and also configured it to be able to control the router. So Annette has got her iPad, and Tammy has got her her iPhone, and we have full functionality using a tablet or an iPhone. Now think about this for a minute. I mean, you could have a lighting director, for example, who would be up in the grid, have his iPad with him or his iPhone with him, and be looking at exactly what his lighting changes are doing without having to climb up and down the ladder, look at the monitor and what's going on with it. He can now see it while he's standing in the grid.
Right, exactly. And I'm thinking of sort of like a pastor at the pulpit. He would actually be able to control his own sermon and, you know, queuing up Skype and queuing up pre-produced video feeds and maybe graphics and that sort of thing, so that he can actually run the sermon himself, or somebody, maybe the associate pastor from the front row. So there are a lot of different applications for this. It's, you know, it's compelling.
Very compelling, and getting rid of the wire, having the having it be absolutely wireless is huge.
Exactly.
You can do it from anywhere.
So now I know the thing that you've been waiting for is to learn how it actually integrates with the TriCaster. Our engineers worked with yours to make it so that the 8000 could directly control our router with protocol, and we're going to roll a short video and show you how that works.
When you want to use TriCaster in an application where a lot of inputs are required, maybe a sports event, a live event, broadcast, the best way to get more than 8 inputs into your TriCaster is with an Ensemble Designs router. Here's the Bright Eye NXT router from Ensemble Designs. You get to configure the number of inputs and outputs it has. Also, the Avenue router from Ensemble Designs too lets you configure the number of inputs and outputs. A lot of configuration choices for your facility. Let's look at how we're set up today. So we've got 3 cameras feeding inputs 1, 2, and 3 on the TriCaster, and we have an Ensemble router sitting in front of the TriCaster, allowing you to bring in 8 more sources into the TriCaster. We're taking 2 of the router outputs into the TriCaster 7 and 8 inputs. Looking at the control screen, you can see on the program row, cameras 1, 2, and 3. Going down to 7, by right-clicking on it, you can see all the 8 router choices available to you. Looking at the panel here, I'm using that just to prove to you that the routes are really happening. So as we switch between the different sources, you'll see on the panel, hey, these are really routing and changing. Now doing dissolve between the program and preview row, we can dissolve between 2 of the router sources. So moving between 2 router sources here. And of course, you can transition between one of the sources feeding the TriCaster directly and the router. Now the routers talk Grass Valley Native Protocol, which is what the TriCaster needs in order to communicate and make those routes. So it's very easy to integrate into your system. When you have a TriCaster that you want to use with a lot of input sources, the best way to do that is with a router from Ensemble Designs.
That was great, Cindy. She's become an expert on the TriCaster. Thank you so much for loaning it to us so we could learn about the product. Now, I know there are a lot of tech people out there that are watching this, and you may be interested in exactly how we did it. We have another video that we can provide to you that explains all of the details and shows you how to put in the code, all of it. And there's also a lot of other sales tools that we can provide to you as well. All sorts of app notes, manuals, of course, quick start guides, training videos, and everything that you've seen here today, plus probably 50 other items that we could provide to you. So we believe in an abundance of information. We want you to be well informed and know how to sell it to the customer. We want to make this easy for you. So we're back here with the whole crew, and the one person you haven't met yet is Mike Sauter. He is our customer service manager. Mike, do you want to speak for a moment?
Yeah, I would. You know, you guys have been talking about the functionality of the router, and I might be a little biased, but I think one of the things that sets us apart is our service. You know, not only do we have a 5-year warranty on the product, but if you call here, you're going to talk to a live person. You know, and also if it's a weekend or a holiday, there's a 24-hour hotline that I would answer, and I would be able to get you through any problems. So
that's great, Mike. That's a wonderful point. Full 5-year warranty, advanced replacement, live person, 24/7 support at no extra charge. And that includes all of your resellers, all of your employees, and all of your customers as well. So we just want to talk a little bit. We haven't received any questions, any chat questions yet, so we're going to just talk about how you might be able to buy the product. We're working in alignment with several of your distributors, including Digibox, CypherCon, and 3D Storm, and others as well. So you can have your resellers contact us directly if you have any questions. We have a special price list just for NewTek that I can provide to any of you, so just ask me if you would like that. It gives all the part numbers and the prices for the products. And I thought we might talk a little bit about applications and things you've seen in the field, things that you might think would be helpful to our NewTek partners on how to sell the products. So if you guys have any stories. Yeah, come on guys, don't be shy. I can't be the only one that's...
It was maybe a related story, but I was doing a show in Alaska, and I was mentioning people were excited about the NXT and the TriCaster there as well.
Right.
But I had one customer talking about he had GoPro cameras on a golf cart, and he said he could actually put the NXT running off of 12 volts in the golf cart and do live switching from the cart. So
amazing.
I don't know how that can help, but maybe.
Yeah, we have helicopters. We're another nice thing about the Bright Eye series of products is that it's very rugged, and we have them in helicopters, submarines. I mean, you wouldn't, some crazy places. But I guess a testament to the longevity of the product is the heat-related applications, and also I think really the helicopter applications, because there's so much vibration and so much change in the temperature from cold to hot, and we have very few failures in the field. We have one helicopter that's been running for 12 years and has not had a single failure in all that time. So, and you know that those helicopters get used a lot. So I just want to thank you for joining us. It's been great. Reiterating the 3 top features are that it's flexible format. You can put any kind of format in you want, HD, SD. Oh, we have a question, excuse me. I'm going to stop for a second. Does the video glitch when switching from one input to another? So we did talk about that for a moment. If you have the clean switch assigned to the output, whatever you switch to that output will be clean and quiet. And we could demonstrate that again. John?
Sure. So here's an HDMI source, and you can see it up on the screen, and I'll change it instantly. No black, no freeze, no glitch. It's quiet, there's no popping. And so I'm now switching between sources. Some are HDMI, some are SDI, and you can see the clean and quiet switch that's taking place.
And did you time up these sources before you came in here?
No, these are all just wild sources. They're just plopped in here with the timing wherever it is.
Exactly. So exactly my point. Out in the field, asynchronous sources, no problem. As long as you have the clean switch assigned to that output, you will have no glitches in your output. Okay, another question. All right, thank you. Do you configure the routers via software or hardware? So we actually, just to speak to that for a moment, we have training videos that go in depth on that, but we can speak to that for a moment here. Do you want to show that?
Sure. The answer is yes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It'll do both software, and it can also be accessed from the front panel of the unit itself. So in the front panel, all the controls for all of your setup are over on the right-hand side of the screen. And so we can go into these controls, and you can see the different types of, you can access everything. The port assignments, the IP addresses in networking configurations, the buttons as far as which are inputs and which are outputs, all of those are available in this section here. So that whole thing is all dedicated to setting up the product itself. Then the operational side there would be where we actually select sources and switch them to air. Now on the web browser interface, then we go into the settings control, and I have access to exactly the same controls. And so now we have it by
maybe we can get that up. Maybe we can get this up on the screen so that our viewers can see it.
So we can see that it's on coming off our computer as well. And so we've got now the whole set. Here's our port assignments. Here's our timing and gen lock. Here's our test signals. Where are we assigning the clean switches? And remember that every one of these control positions, this is something I kind of failed to talk about, every one of our control positions can be configured configured differently. So which sources and which destinations are available to, say, the dedicated router control panel, or that are on the iPad, or that are on the computer itself. So each can have its own configuration.
Exactly. So you can make every single surface custom. If you want someone to only see 4 of your inputs and 1 of your outputs, you can set it up that way very easily. And again, like I said, we have training videos on all of this, so just email me and I will get you whatever you need. We have 2 more questions now. One is, what inputs do you support? So would one of you like to take that?
Sure. We support a variety of inputs, HDMI, SDI, and as John said, with the SFP modules, we can accept fiber optic as well.
But I think we could go further than that. We can say 3 gigabit, HD, SDI, and SD, SDI inputs, correct?
Correct, absolutely. So any format of the HD, 720p, 1080i, it doesn't matter. The system will accept it and switch cleanly if the clean switches are engaged on that output.
Correct. Okay, so now another question. Who will have pricing information? You mentioned it's available, but please provide. Is that through Ruben? So I know that Ruben is the Vice President of Sales in the Americas, and definitely I will provide that pricing information to him. I think that, you know, as we work through this and we sort of figure out how people are going to purchase, we'll get better at this. But for right now, we're making the pricing available to NewTek employees and distributors only. If you'd like us to widen that, to provide that information to more people, just communicate with me and let me know how you'd like us to handle that. Okay, all right. Can you support multiple routers on a TriCaster? I don't know the answer to that question, but I think it would be yes. Did you work with the TriCaster?
I've not done a whole lot of the TriCaster work. I would imagine you can control multiple routers, but I have to say I have not tried that.
Okay, so our expert, Cindy, is sitting in the studio. She's the one sending me the questions, and she says, yes, you can.
Okay, there's the answer.
Okay, I think that's the last of the questions. If you have any more, feel free to send them to me, and we'll make sure to post them where everyone who do you pass audio through as well? If the audio is embedded, it absolutely passes through. We talked about earlier that there was clean and quiet switching if you have the frame sync or the clean switch assigned to an output. And that includes embedded audio. So we do this properly. We handle the audio properly. And if you have audio on that source that's going to the clean switch output, it will absolutely be in time. There will be no pops, no glitches. But again, regardless of which output your audio is going to pass through, you can also feed AES into the router, and you can route AES as well if it's separate for some reason. Hope I answered that question. Anybody to add to that?
Well, I was going to add that they have the audio breakaway
Great
in
point.
here as well.
Great point.
Which allows us to be able to take the audio from one source and then be able to switch the video while keeping this audio from the single source.
Absolutely. So you could choose the audio from one camera and have it follow no matter what the output is that you choose. So, and that's great in multi-camera live events. I know that they just want to have one person's audio on that track.
Exactly. So
yeah.
The audio mixer would be associated with the camera, and then you could switch around all of that.
Exactly. And I know it's really easy to set up, just like everything in the NXT.
Very easy.
Okay. Is that it, guys, for questions? Okay, so if, again, like I said, if you have additional questions, feel free to email any of us after the show. If we receive questions that weren't covered here, we'll post them where everyone can see them. I'll send them out to the group so everybody has access to that information. So again, you can accept multi-format, asynchronous inputs, and you have a multitude of control choices, including directly through the TriCaster 8000. Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, we're all looking forward to this partnership.